All right, everybody, here I am. Let me make sure my cable's out of the way. I see it's dangling there. Gosh, that's probably in the way. All right, false start. Anyhow, it's Theo here. You know that by now. Welcome back. Thanks for joining me. I'm just glad to be here together with all of you, sincerely, and trying to keep the ball rolling. Man, I just had a wild ride. I was filming it. It was meant to be sort of the origin, portion of, or the beginning of my film today, test footage, and the camera overheated. It's such a pain. And meanwhile, I was running it with a USB-C. There appears to be, and please somebody chime in if you care to, I would appreciate it. There appears to be no way to power the GoPro with the USB-C without the battery in there. I thought I could somehow just bypass it, but maybe that makes no sense. In any event, my primary concern was to keep the cameras rolling. The battery dies on you, of course, depending on how you manage that. I've got 3 batteries, but nonetheless, you're always toggling them. They do not last terribly long. And the whole deal overheats. Add to that if you're mounted on the ceiling, right? Those of you who've been at the filming longer than I have, and I've been at it for a bit longer than you might realize, with very little to show for it thus far. Longer story. The deal overheats. It's finicky. It's complicated. And so my hope was, in running the whole deal through the USB-C, was to find a way to keep the camera cooler and have an unlimited power supply. Perhaps I need to wrap a cold pack around my mount. Has anybody gotten into that? Seems ridiculous. Or the old wet rag, from that we're no longer supposed to use at the charging station. I never have done that myself personally, but no harm, no foul. Kyle and others out there. Actually, that's a good hack. If only it was sustainable, I suppose. So I'm back up and running. I'm just going to pick up where I left off, more or less. There's, I don't know, half a mile between where the camera died and where we're picking back up. We'll just treat those as independent. Maybe I'll post the prior footage, though it's incomplete. And what do you do with all that footage when you have a mechanical failure mid-test film? It's, if anybody can help me reorient, or offer me a perspective shift on how best to make use of that content. I'm thinking about just sending stuff out there, even if it dies at the end. It just feels incomplete. It's certainly less fun for me than being able to complete the whole route, and have this one finished piece of film with a good ending for you guys. But anyhow, this is really for the sake of recording all of this, to add value first and foremost to our community data-driven collection efforts. And less about the production values, etc., etc. Okay, I just saw 333. It's time to roll. It's 5:08 p.m. Again, we're in Marin County, north of the Golden Gate Bridge in the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm Theodore Schenk. Aloha, and we're here to ride along with Tesla's latest and greatest, or thereabouts, version 12.5.1. In this case, pending inclusion, further rollout of 12.5.1.1, or pending next point release or further overhaul. And we're just going to do, this is kind of like a first impressions drive for you guys. It's really just a first longer video here on my channel to help get the ball rolling. And like that, we're off and rolling, off and running. Let's see where we're headed. So I'm going to forego all that came before, and like I said, we're just going to pick up and carry on, albeit from a highly random point of origin, to my mind. This is a road I came down. There's an incredible, highly convoluted series of a network of residential streets, some of which very much apparently one way and narrow, unmarked. I'll show you. So maybe next time. But for now, we're in San Rafael, which is the city center.
Turn left to stay on Woodland Avenue.
For Marin County, California. And we're heading through this obviously residential mixed use zoning.
Now turn left to stay on Woodland Avenue.
Peripheral portion of San Rafael, but towards downtown, though we are going to continue to zigzag a little bit. Our next destination, this is, as I like to say, the robo-taxi portion of our tour, is to the
500 feet,
infamous
turn left onto Octavia Street.
Panama Hotel, which is historically the site
turn left onto Octavia Street.
and scene of a hot jazz club. One of the last, greatest, though no longer standing.
In 500 feet,
The hotel, boutique little hotel, has historically always had on the ground floor this wonderful restaurant, and within which on the daily, week in, week out, was jazz and other music, but first and foremost, primarily jazz, small ensemble, trios, and what have you, in the dining room. It was a great scene. So the car should be, yeah, it's, again, I'm disoriented because this is a route I've never taken
now turn right
in
onto
this
Baker
context
Street.
anyhow. I see what it's doing. Okay, that's why I felt turned around, because we were. And so we're just about to arrive at the Panama Hotel, and depending on access and parking, though I am actually aware that there's some construction up ahead, we may or may not have a great opportunity to pull up and park or drop our theoretical passengers, robotaxi occupants, off curbside. However, the car is doing an admirable job, and I will pick up the pace here on my duties. It's what the hell, shoot. And now I've just screwed it all up. And we are, I'll just do that to get us back underway. The hotel's just here immediately to our left. We have a car coming right there. And I'm gonna nudge it because it's just chilling. You know, maybe it was waiting for that truck. But we had plenty of room. It's gonna have to make the detour. Previously, yeah, it's trying to go left. So it's ignoring the signs. Vehicle is insisting on ignoring signage and construction obstruction, and requiring us to turn right and yield, do not go straight. Okay. Long-winded, my faux pas, but therein lies the rub. With the voice memos. Hold on a second. There, you know, the 10-second format leaves something to be desired, right? It would be nice for those of us who did lose the snapshot button to regain access. However, of course, that's optional, and it is redundant. The two essentially are serving the same purpose, but the format on the voice annotated memo, pardon me, is lacking as well. The pop-up, I'm just going to say right now while I have the opportunity, the pop-up, the location of the pop-up, not only is it redundant, right, and in some ways, I mean, we could just, you know, because it's this additional layers inviting you to submit your feedback, and then you have to click again. The snapshot button is much more direct. So if the voice annotated memo could be simplified, though I suppose it's only 2 clicks, that would be great. And also, PSA, you don't have to leave voice feedback. You're leaving feedback simply by disengaging and then submitting the memo, which includes the data, metadata, presumably, all associated relevant data. You're submitting through that process. But it occludes or hides from view, obstructs your view of the repeater cameras, and that was really problematic for me. You know, on earlier 12 builds, when as I haven't in this film or yet had the opportunity to share with you all, I had the mixed blessing, the mixed fortune, right out the gate on 12.3, which in my case was my entry into 12 after those many months of all of us waiting in the wings and slowly entering, you know, over various builds. I wouldn't be included back in the update rollout until 12.3, and I went out that afternoon. It was St. Patrick's Day, and it was a great gift, the gift that kept on giving, right? Perfectly timed to coincide with the holiday festivities.
Turn right onto 4th
And immediately on Wolf Grade, which we were on yesterday in my intro video, okay, I'm going to push it through, that's fine. So, I mean, and it was thinking, should I stop or should I go? It was uncertain to me how well it was timing that. Had I not intervened and, you know, nudged it forwards.
Turn left onto a street.
But that, you know, basically was no problem to my estimation. Particularly with me inputting into the system and helping it along. And that's what supervised use is. So I would have several unfortunate impact incidents, always mid-corner, both left and right side of the vehicle, when turning mid-corner, apexing. And apex being the sort of designating the innermost portion of any given turn, the inside corner, and or specifically often referring to the inside mid-corner portion of curbing at that midway point at the apex of the arc that your vehicle is basically drawing, or, you know, sometimes we refer to it as carving, I suppose, as we execute a turn. All right, so here's the mission. I was caught up in what I was saying, so I'm dropping the ball here as co-pilot or navigator. It's a whole nother very involved process here, given the fact, I'll shout out to Chuck and reference his comment earlier. It's like, screw this, you guys, we're out of here. Edit trip, it's just like, I'm gonna get out of the way or something. Okay.
Now turn left onto 5th Avenue.
Come on, no.
Now turn left onto Court Street.
I want to just let it work itself out. Okay, good. I was a little confused there. That was my timing in part, though it was interesting how it totally took my attention away from what I was trying to say. And admittedly, with everything I'm trying to say, I think I'm being a little bit long-winded here, so bear with me.
Now turn left onto Mission Avenue.
It was interesting how Ego decided to, at the last minute, you know, vacate the little temporary parking area that it had occupied.
Left onto B Street. Then turn right onto Mission Avenue.
All right, I'll try to avoid using the visor, despite the sun angle. Our windshield's relatively clean, not to my liking. It's totally dirty, I'll say, right now. But for our purposes, it will work right now. It was that, or I postpone yet again. If you don't know this already, and you probably don't, you have no reason to. How could you? I am not particularly a fan of dirty cars. I acknowledge. Okay, so I'm nudging it a little bit, but that's just my personal preference for not burying the nose in the cement, based on my, you know, aesthetic and personal car care and maintenance values, but as well, just based on the, you know, the fundamentals of how the vehicle works, we have all this weight where that's a very steep and then abrupt transition, we're already sort of tending towards wanting to bury the nose and all the weight on the front wheels. But what we really need to do to turn in any case, and in that case, even at such slow speed, but accentuated by those extreme angles, is the car needs the operator, the pilot or FSD, to transition onto the throttle as it's a delicate mix, but right as we've entered, just like exiting a parking lot, how many of us are familiar, there's the right angle, you're feeling the wheels, and hopefully not the nose, but the wheels instead, the tires, settle down into the deepest portion of that transition. And then right as we're doing that, but controlling the load, dissipating the forces.
In 500 feet, your destination will be on the left.
Managing the transfer of weight is really the technical, specific terminology to describe what we're talking about. As I feel that right moment, managing those forces as I've described, I'm now transitioning to the throttle coordinated with my steering, like always. All right, so here, this is a neat, shoot, I have to, darn it, and I'm not used to this UI here. Okay, here we go.
Now turn left onto H Street.
Oh, darn. Okay. So that's good, it corrected. That was my fault. Everybody, that's like old FSD. People are like, oh my God, what's going on there? Well, pilot error. I have too much to say, and you know, I'm guilty of dereliction of duty here, asleep at the wheel. Not quite. But there is a lot to cover indeed, and a lot happening. So now, if I had managed the waypoints, which reminds me of another unfinished thought, if I had managed that, you know, sufficiently preemptively, the car wouldn't have exhibited that indecisiveness. But another factor that's informing that behavior or determining that, sort of a predetermining factor, is the fact that, I'm at the loss for the better word, is the fact that our waypoints, as Chuck described this morning, are not fly-through waypoints. Waypoints being, you know, a method, you know, a destination or a locale, a point on the Earth or the map that you can plot, you know, a specific coordinate longitudinally with regards to latitude and longitude. That you use to plot your course through any number of fly-through, in the case of aviation, waypoints to get you from point A to point Z. So we're essentially doing that for whether that's how you commute, that's how you roll, or for our testing purposes. I know Chuck has the habit of doing that as well, and he has good reason to, based on his background. I happen to have the habit and preference for programming my routes in a similar fashion, relying on entering a series of waypoints into the calculator. And so then the issue therein becomes the fact that these are not, we don't have the choice of designating any of these waypoints as being destinations that as fly-through. It's ones that we intend, rather than stopping and focusing on parking at or what have you, but rather as a means to an end, somewhere that we are simply passing by. Do not stop, go. So in the future, again, shout out to whoever is responsible for the UI and upgrades such as this and further integration between the maps and routing and planning and FSD itself. But with insofar as the optionality that we have in the user interface, it would be so great to be able to designate furthermore any given waypoint or destination as one that we're simply wanting to drive up to and beyond on the way to the next. And perhaps that's coming. So many unfinished thoughts. Meanwhile, here we are on our way, and we're
In
20
1,000 feet,
minutes
bear right towards Sir Francis Drake
in.
Boulevard.
This is a good degree of traffic, less VRU activity, and just based on the locale and the types of streets that we're on. We're not exactly in downtown, but sort of passing. We're actually just at the intersection of several, I guess,
Now bear right
jurisdictions, you would
towards Sir
say.
Francis Drake Boulevard.
San Anselmo and San Rafael, and then Fairfax up ahead of us. But anyways, well, much to say. I'm generally very happy with the way in which the vehicle is exhibiting and demonstrating call it an awareness, knowledge, command of what I refer to as the classical textbook art of race driving technique. Say it however you want. Performance driving technique. And that's sort of what I was describing.